Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. I thank you, everybody that watches online right now through the Facebook streaming. And I want to thank my friends here I invited to come tonight and my husband. And I want to also thank the house that supported me to come and bring this subject so I can speak about overcome racism in our house. So let's start in a lecture. The objective of this lecture tonight is educate the majority to overcome their own bias, prejudice, and overcome racism, being a decent and respectful human being to each other, understand and respect the diversity around us, and the transformation from inside out. And with that said, I have prepared some pre-work for us before we start in a lecture. And I want to ask everybody to participate with me before I bring the base words for this lecture tonight, which is a racism, prejudice, and bias. And according to the dictionary, Google Dictionary, prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism direct against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. Prejudice, preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or an actual experience. And bias, prejudice in favor of against one thing, person, or group compared with other, usually in a way considered to be unfair. So I'm going to ask you guys to please look to the chessboard on the screen. The graphic have a square A and a square B. The question is, which square is darker in color? Which one's dark, A or B? What do you guys think? A? Who thinks A's? Raise the hand, please. Who think B? Like, for example, here, A, B.
Oh, it's too light.
Yes. A and B.
Oh, now I see. The A is over there.
A is darker.
Yes, A is dark.
Is the consensus A is darker? Look again. Both are the same color. This is research by the neuroscience of a Harvard group of people. They put this experiment together. This is part of our brain, and this is a part of this research regarding bias. And it's not illusional optical. If you look, they draw a line of the same color connecting A and B, so we can see there's the same color. So we need to accept that if you have a brain, you have a bias. No matter what. Of course, tonight I'm talking about races, but bias is about everything else. It can be about the sexuality of the person, about the person's look. It's all kind of a bias. So I want to give this pre-work because I think that make us get off the comfort zone. And sometimes you have jumping conclusion to judge people in a sense that they think like that, they do this, but I don't do. But we need to accept that we all have a bias, unconscious bias, but we do have them. So it's important to be aware of the bias, and especially the unconscious bias, like I say. And I put the link, the website on the bottom. You guys, I encourage everybody to take like a deeper research in these, look in your own spare time. They have a test, so you can test yourself for different type of bias, and you can read more about that, so you can learn more. So if you wanna, I can share with you guys after too, and I'll give you the link to the website. Okay, so now that I have given the pre-work to everybody, I think you're ready to start in the lecture. And what inspired me for this lecture tonight is the movie Green Book. The move, I'm not here to talk about the move in a sense to be a movie critic or to be a move expertise. Is just the story that inspired me. And regardless the controversies about the movie, how true to the facts the movie tell the story, I want to keep it to the synopsis and the characters of this guy. He's a white guy. He's work on a nightclub in a fifth, and one day he come home. His wife have two plumbers who work in the house, and the wife gave the two guys, two black guys, like a lemonade. And when they finished, they left. He got the cups and thrown in garbage, and that's how the movie started. And the movie moved along. He ended up going to work for this guy, very classic, elegant, black pianist. Now, he's a musician. He played piano. And he became his drive. And they travel together. They spend a lot of time together on the road. And they developed this friendship. And he developed this admiration for this guy. And through time, he was changing his ways, his perceptions. And little by little, he was like overcome his own races and ended up inviting this guy to come to his house, have a Christmas party. So that move inspired me to put this presentation together on a point of the transformation from inside out. That was the resonate the most to me. People can change you from inside out. So let's do a reflection now. I talk about this beautiful, inspired story that raised also a lot of questions for me as well. And the question is, nobody born racist, biased, or prejudiced, or does. And we're taught to be racist. These are one of those questions that come when I watch the movie. And other things also surround me. And yeah, in fact, nobody born racist. People become it through life by bias, education, and teachings. And we receive from our parents and from our surrounds. And I was reading this article about this attorney in Brazil. And he put in his article, he was like in a park one day, and there was a bunch of kids like playing in a playground or with the nannies watch them. And he saw that suddenly a mother walked to one of the nan and say something to her. The nan get up when they took a kid away, which is this white kid play with this black kid. Without explanation or nothing. And he was very shocked with the scene. And as attorney, he was like, one of his calls is about parental alienation. And that day he have these ideas. You know what? I cannot justify for parental alienation. I have also to incorporate racial alienation too, because that was the situation right there when they broke the kids apart. The race segregation was sealed right there in his concept, and then that's become one of his calls. And you have to understand, children get along with each other. The only time children are gonna have a dispute with each other is over the normal course of a life, over a toy or attention, space, but never, by no means, by race or ethnicity, religion, anything. So this is something that was imposed by this white boy mother. So as a children, when you have this type of situation, the white boy, in his unconscious, he's starting to develop this type of a superiority, artificial, but yet the superiority idea that his mother created for him. And for the black boy, he get no explanation why he can no longer play for the other kid, and that make a mark for this boy life, like this humiliation mark for the rest of his life. And that's how little by little society are putting those segregations and racist ideas on people's mentality. That's how things starting develop. So the question also that I have, if they can be taught racism, can you be untaught? And certainly yes, because the social racism is something constructed by humans. So therefore, that can be deconstructed as well. And racism is an intellectual limitation regardless if you are white or black. That's it, is a intellectual limitation. So you have to be aware of this type of things we do, unconscious or conscious. So I try to summarize an equation under a spiritist scenario now. I push the responsibility to each one individually right now. Because as a spirit, as a soul, as a immortal soul, we are accumulation of our life experience, our past lives, all the baggage we have. Then we incarnate, and we're being surrounded by our parents, by our environment, by our culture, by society, and that make the mark of the baggage you already have, plus the experience that we've been having right now. They're gonna lead to the adults that we are now, of our current personality. So it's of course this, when you talk about the soul, you talk about our past life experience, the actual life experience, is something very broad to be, we have more things to talk about, but I just try to summarize, so to lead to this dialogue, to have, so you can have parameters where you're going for this lecture. So with all the scenario that I just taking in consideration, it's important key element, in fact, also to keep in mind, according to the Spiritism, we all have our own individual journey, our own growth path, and our free will. So, yeah, you blame sometimes the society, but is in the end of the day, is our individual call, responsibility, and decisions to do the right thing. And also, not to forget to mention the law of the cause and effect. As a spiritist, we are aware about the law of the causes and effects, which the races will suffer in himself, the suffering caused to the others as well. I briefly bring some racism and laws, facts, and arm length from the segregation laws, apartheid laws, to the laws that protect people. So we have these, so you can have a little bit of understand how the causes and effects the law has to create and impose to society. Of course, I brought the most notorious laws to help guide the dialogue. The apartheid, which is from 1948 to 1991 in South Africa. And when you look at the dates, 1991, I born 1982. So I know many people here born in the 90s. So it's not a long time ago. It's crazy to think that not long ago, people still live in a separate country, when they separate whites and blacks. And then we have the segregation after the Civil War, which is one of the first attempts in America to separate people after the abolishment of the slavery here in America and during the rebuild of the United States. But the law disappeared for a while, but they reappeared in 1870 when the white Sultans enacted the law against interracial marriage. It was a funny thing. I was coming to the spiritual center tonight, and my husband, he drive me, we come together. And I was just looking at him and said, you know what? In 1870, we could be married. Think about that. We live in the South, and if you are live at the time, if you are in the time, so we could not be married. Right? I always mention that to you. It's just things that make me think, and the more I think, I developed the other thoughts. So then you have the segregation on the South, the law they call the Jim Crow law. That's the most notorious law in America that created the segregation in America. That law was followed quickly by all the Souths, and with the idea of the by equality principle, which established the segregation between blacks and whites, and where people could not have the same, go to the same school, going to the same church, go to the same shopping. In a bus, now they have to sit in separate seats, have to be in a separate locations and railroad stations, among other things. And the law, Afonso Arinos, which is the Brazilian law, is the first Brazilian law code to include among criminal contraventions the practice of acts result from race, prejudice, and skin color. That law is enacted in 1951. This law, what that making me surprised about this law, the author, Afonso Arinos, he died in 1990. When he died, there was not a single person that was ever in prison based on the law. So you tell me that from 1951 until the 90s, people have not suffered from racism in Brazil. I researched about that, and I know there was only 9 complaints, but no one prison. That makes me think that maybe the Brazilians are very evolved people. Everybody already learned a lot about the spiritual teachings, and everybody already learned about Jesus teachings, that everybody know we have to be evolved, and nobody practices racism against people. I'm really surprised about that. I'm being sarcastic too, so. And of course, in the most Brazilian racial crime law, and for the, Article 5, which is 1989, that was the most strong law, one of the most strong laws in the world. And it's funny because Brazil is known to be very homogeneous and a very mixed race country, and we have the most strong law against racism. And at least the law right now is implemented, and people are taking that more serious. So although the laws give us the equal rights, the society was not prepared to this equal rights. The society, the laws don't stop now the society stopped the blacks to achieve equality. It's not enough to say I'm not racist, it's necessary to fight against it. It's necessary to be tolerant to the difference. The real meritocracy won't be real until races exist. It won't be better if public politics could, along the generations, gradually in progress decrease the racial difference. Not only on the politics and the state, it's our responsibility to they started with us inside the house, how we teach our kids. Keep that in mind. And as a part of a society, we all have the responsibility to make an equal world to everybody. And racism is immoral, unethical, and illegal. Why? And I ask myself, so why in the middle of the 21st century, skin color is still a cause of a prejudice investigation? Why? Unfortunately, discrimination exists. And it's still, it's not only now being racist, but all the other kind of discrimination too. And we are in 2000, and you still have to talk about like that. I know it's uncomfortable for many people, but it's a conversation you need to have. You need to have this conversation, because if everybody are doing the right thing, we won't have to have this conversation. But unfortunately, it's a necessary dialogue. So you need to learn to be respectful to the others. And with that comes the debate, the debate which is, for me, I believe in education. I advocate for education. I think education is the only way. So one day it will be necessary law to remind us that we are all equal. We have to educate our kids. You need to provide equal education to people from kindergarten to all the way up. So the equality that we all talk about one day can be, in fact, in place. Education and conscience. Our experience has already showed that social control for racism, unfortunately, is done through the penal law. It's a mix of stuff because, okay, you have laws, and sometimes you think about why is it necessary to have a law? Because, unfortunately, people, on their own will, won't do the right things. So the law is there to kind of put people on the path. Unfortunately, until people cannot make the right calls, you're going to have to do, have to use the law to make the enforcement. However, all the laws anti-discrimination probably could not have achieved little that we have achieved as of today. So that's the why. So it's a combination of a law, education, and above all, conscience. So I have this very interesting here. When I was doing my research, I found this. Brazil considers itself the most racial democracy in a sense of it's a mixed country. The race in Brazil is a democracy thing. And this motivated UNESCO in 1950 to promote a study about the harmonious relationship among the races in Brazil. It was done in 1950, okay? And for me, why Brazil we have this strong social inequality among various groups in 2019? Why? So these dissimulative racism can be expressed in the questions by this anthropologist Lilia Schwartz. She wrote a book, The Wonder of the Races. It was funny thing because on when she's doing her research for her book, she's interviewed people. And she asked, are you prejudiced? 99% of people say no. But when she's asked, do you know anyone that's a prejudice? 98% say yes. So the math, for me, do not equal here. How 99% of people say they are not racist, but 98% they know someone they are. It's something here that's not aligned.
The people they know don't live in Brazil.
What is that? The people what? No, what is that you say?
The people they know don't live in Brazil.
Probably, yes, probably. But the funny thing is, this is like something, it's an old data. It's not a new data, so we need to recognize racial matters as a relevant issue and understand that it's our responsibility to fight for the edification of justice, equality, and fraternal society. Okay, this is something that Umberto Fabri, when I was putting this together, we have this conversation, this discussion, and Umberto, he told me this fact, and they got me really so wow. This Nobel Prize scientist, James Watts, who discovered the DNA, in 2014, he became the first living Nobelist to sell his medal, to support himself after he lost everything due to his racist remarks. This guy, he discovered the DNA. He have a remarkable, he have done a lot for the scientist world, yet he have done such racist remarks. In 2007, he said that while people might wish all humans are equal, people who have to deal with black employees find this not true. He told that was inherently gloomy about prospect of African because our social policies are based on the fact that their intelligence is the same as ours, where all the testing says no, really. However, in 2010, he had a chance to redeem himself. And they make this documentary about him, and they give him a chance to, are you still think that? You still believe in what you say? And he did not redeem himself. He still stick for what he say. And if you think about this, is very dangerous. It's a dangerous and a hurtful. And this type of a comments, because someone like him, because the racist people would believe what he say. And they use this to justify the prejudice and simply promote bias and support the white supremacist views. So of course, his beliefs are not scientifically supported. And just for now, one thing, for a curiosity point of view, it's not only not true, but you have like several black people. They are very remarkable in a scientist world. They have done a lot of things for the society, for the community. And I always like to talk about one example is this woman. Her name is Madam C.J. Walker. She's back in the time, she was the first woman. She's African American, but she's the first woman that became self-made millionaire. She's invented hair products. She was selling. She was travel, and she was the first woman to become self-made millionaire in America. And she's a black. So just for the sake of the conversation. And of course, you have other people that I can be here talk all night, but just to debunk this racist comment by this guy. And I have here the importance of the civil rights activists. And what all they have in common? All they have in common, they hold a strong stance to promote and protect human rights. My favorite ones, I put it here together. Of course, I think everybody knows Nelson Mandela, just because I'm also a fan of education, and I feel aligned with him, and he's one of my favorites. Also Rosa Parks, because I think she's very courageous. She's took the courage to sit on a bus designated to the white people. And at times the segregation was very, in fact, in law here in America. And because of her, people right now, not only because of her, but also because of her action, people now have these equal opportunities and these equal in parts, of course, but it's important to remember those peoples. And of course, the most notorious Martin Luther King, I have a dream. Everybody knows the speech, but I love the quote that he say, the time is always right to do what is right. And that's why this is for everybody. You always, have to do the right thing, regardless. And those people also, they took action. They took action against discrimination. And for that, they take courage. So let's talk about a little bit about privileges and representation. If you think this subject is excessive, you might be a racist. If you think it's not enough, debate around the subject might you suffer from a racism. And what is a white privilege? It doesn't mean that white person don't work hard or don't have a suffer other type of discrimination. But what I mean by that is a white person benefits from a vast assortment of benefits and advantages, not shared by many people of color, such as escaping violent stereotypes associated with the race, turn on the TV or read magazines and see white people widely represented, generally have a positive relationship with the police, find children's books, dolls, princes, they overwhelmingly represent the white folks' race, advertisements biased toward people's race, and enroll in a class in a college and be sure that the majority of the professors will be white. When I was in college, I studied here in America. I don't have one professor that was black. All different race, but I have one. Just for the point of the conversation. So that's what I mean by privilege and representation. So Pride and Prejudice, when we are not going to be surprised anymore when you see blacks and minorities in a high social position. The lack of a representation in that leads to the scenario, like, you know, in the movie scene. There's a very interesting scene in a movie because the car broke on the road when they go into the tour. And the car broke by these farms of a cotton field where, like, all the, think about the movie was date in the 50s. So they have all these black folks who work in a farm. And the guy, the driver, he stepped out to chill out the car to see what's going on. And this very elegant guy, he's black, was the boss in a back seat. So when he's so tired to be inside the car, he stepped out of the car. All the farm workers stop and look at him like astonished, like they can't believe what they see. They are like, you can see the surprise on their face. Because they never see something like that. They are not normal. They are not like it's not usual for them. So if you put ourselves on those people's shoes at the time, they felt inspired. They felt like, you know what? One day I can be like this guy. And why not, right? Okay, so the Spiritism doctrine implies that we must evolve continuously, become better human beings every day, right? And everybody knows, I believe, Mahatma Gandhi. He most notorious. You must become the change you want to see in the world. So inspired by the movie characters, synopsis that I told you guys, that I share with you guys, showing the change from inside out, the people transform and people evolve. I could not let out and not mention a real life person, known by men by his non-violent ideals. Gandhi, he was the biggest racist known. I don't know if you guys are aware about this fact or not.
He was what?
Racist. He was biggest racist. However, he himself, he's a racist among all the things too, among all the bad things too. Biased, his prejudice among women and other things too. But the good thing is, why I mentioned Gandhi, because he is the example of the true example of overcome racism, and everyone can change from inside out. He have his biography, which is they tell his stories and everything, and his biography, this is autobiography for him. He have mentioned something about, if you ever find two quotes from me that contradict each other, stick to the last one. Meaning that he is aware about his shortcomings. He's aware about his limitations as a human. He's aware about his wrongdoing. And also he's aware that he worked towards he changed himself. And when he graduated as an attorney in United Kingdom, and in the beginning, when he moved to South Africa, he wanted to be called the master. He dressed like a lord, and then at the end of his life, he's died for just like a cloth wrapping his body. Yes, at the time he was educated on Europe with all the racist thing embedded in his mind, but through life he understood, he knows wrong, and he overcome his own racist. And that it was a real person, and I like that story, you know why? Because that helped to deconstruct the mythical image of Gandhi. And I know this don't take away all the good works he ever done, but also they making him human, like me, like you, like everybody here. Because as a human being, we're not always going to be perfect, but we certainly we can work towards to evolve ourselves and change ourselves and be better. And that's the Spiritism is here to teach us, to help us, to guide us. So my message tonight is pretty much involving a transformation from inside out. And I have to bring a lot of facts, a lot of information in such a short period, but it's important to give these awakenings to everybody. It's important that we be aware. Sometimes we are very involved with our life, it's very busy with our lives, and you don't see what's going on around us. You don't see what's going on in our surroundings. You don't pay attention. Sometimes because it's not for me, so I don't have nothing to do with it. But if you see something now by us, next to us, going on that's not right, it is our responsibility. Because when we silence ourselves, we are consent. So it is our responsibility. In the gospel teaches us that it's only one race, which is the human race. So we are one race with a different skin shades. We are racially programmed to, particularly in regard to the color issue, because our culture's racist roots. The way the world thinks, we have been programmed to look at the exterior rather than interior, which is our soul of the person. We need to begin to see people like God sees us. So my final thoughts is, now the Green Book, which is inspired my lecture tonight, is a story about love, acceptance, and overcoming barriers. I end this lecture with a message for us, like we have the responsibility to do the right thing. A new era for us. We are in 2019. It should not be talk about things like that, but yet, if you are talking about, because things going on around us, and sometimes you just turn the face, or well, like I say, it's not for me, so I don't have nothing to do. But I think the activists that I mentioned before, they take courage, and we need to have a courage too. So it's a new era of love, tolerance, respect, and compassion without racism or any other kind of segregation. So in time of hate, it's always important to radicalize love. Thank you very much to listen to me.